In this video, we are talking about the Life Compass method, which will drastically increase your chances of achieving literally any goal that you put effort into. So it contains the same evidence-based insights used by the biggest companies in the world, but applied to your own personal goals. It's free, pretty straightforward, and takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get set up. So whether you want to create a business, build muscle, find a long-term partner, or literally any other goal that you have, the Life Compass method will just make it much more likely you actually achieve them. And by the way, I'm Brian. I got a degree in economics, spent 3 years in project management with PM certifications, and I've just finished building an app called Life Compass, which combines everything I've learned into one straightforward system to help others achieve their biggest goals. So starting off, you need to define exactly what you want. When a company wants to achieve something, they create what's called a project. This project ideally defines what the company wants to achieve and by when. Once this direction is set, they can start to break down the work that needs to be completed, commit resources, and then start performing the actions that get them closer towards their desired endpoint. All of these steps and hard work come after defining a project, which is why it is so important for a company and for you to set a goal that you actually want to achieve. You want to avoid wasting a ton of effort and resources on something that you realize wasn't even that important to you to begin with. So the goal of this first step is just to make sure you don't climb a mountain only to realize that you're on the wrong one. So if you're unsure of what goal you actually want to pursue, then have a go at this quick practical exercise. So according to positive psychology research, life can be broken up into 8 different key domains: career and work, health and wellness, relationships, personal growth, financial security, recreation and leisure, purpose and meaning, and community and environment. And now what you want to do is give each domain a rating out of 10 and how well you think it's working for you at this point in your life. For example, for me, I would rate career and work an 8, health and wellness a 3 since I've been eating poorly, no food prep, and literally no exercise. Relationships a 7 since I've got good friends in this city, personal growth a 6, financial security a 7, recreation and leisure a 4, purpose and meaning a 7, and community environment a 5. Okay, so considering health and wellness was my lowest rating, that's going to be my area of focus for creating my first goal. But there are 3 critical mistakes people make when setting a goal, which dramatically decreases their likelihood of success, which we are going to avoid right now. First is being too vague. You need to be specific to give yourself an actual target. Compare I want to be fit versus I want to run 5 kilometers in under 25 minutes. By changing this goal from vague to specific, the research shows that I'll actually have a 42% higher achievement rate. So for my personal goal, I want to bulk to 90 kilograms at 15% body fat. There's no ambiguity, it's either I hit the numbers or I don't. Second is setting goals based on what others think you should do. Goals driven by external pressure, if that's society, family, or friends, or pressure that you've put on yourself, will fail at much higher rates. Intrinsic motivation, where you genuinely want the outcome, is what actually predicts success. So for me, I want to bulk because I want to feel strong, I want to look better, I want to be more confident, not because someone told me it's a goal that I should have. And that framing makes it much more likely I'm going to stick with this goal and feel a sense of drive and purpose as I move towards it. The third thing to avoid is negative framing. If you have a vision you're trying to avoid, you're actually 12% less likely to achieve it than if you just set a positive goal you wanted to achieve. All right, now that you have your goal, the next step is to break it down into milestones. And a milestone is just a checkpoint along the way. It's pretty much a smaller goal that shows you're making progress towards your bigger goal. Research from Stanford found that people who broke down big goals into milestones had a 57% achievement rate versus only 34% for people who are only focused on the end goal. So that's almost 70% more likely to succeed just from creating these checkpoints, which is why a company breaks down their goals and why you should too. Here's why milestones are so powerful. 1, they let you catch problems early. If you miss a milestone, you know immediately that something is off and then you can adjust, instead of realizing your approach isn't working months down the track. And 2, they keep you motivated. Big goals take time and it's easy to lose motivation when your endpoint still feels so far away. So without smaller wins along the way, people get discouraged and then eventually quit. but making tangible progress towards a goal that you actually care about releases dopamine and positive reward networks, which just makes you feel more amped up and excited to hit the next milestone. Creating milestones follow the same concepts as when creating a goal, so you can apply that same logic that we already went over, but now to the creation of your milestones. So for my goal, here is how I've broken it down. Create a 1-year training program, calculate macros and create a meal plan, get to 84 kilograms, 86, 88, 90, 92, and then cut down to 90 kilograms. Now finally, we need to break each of these milestones down into the actions that will make it inevitable that you reach each milestone and therefore your goals. In project management, there is a concept called a work breakdown structure, which, as the name suggests, is a breakdown of a project into smaller components. It takes a big overwhelming goal and makes it more and more granular until what's left over is all of the small actionable tasks that, if completed, would result in the completion of the project. A work breakdown structure is crucial for a company for many reasons, but let's go over the most critical reason and how it relates to you. Increases clarity and defines scope. Breaking your milestones into tasks forces you to think through everything that is involved in reaching this goal. This prevents something called scope creep, which means adding things that aren't essential to you completing the goal. And it also ensures that when you start the work, you are confident in knowing exactly what needs to be done for you to be successful. This is so important because when you know exactly what needs to be done each day, then you understand if you don't complete those specific tasks, then you won't reach your milestone, and that means you won't ever reach your goal. But if you do complete the tasks, then achieving your goals just becomes inevitable. Every single goal is just a breakdown of tasks, so if you nail this concept of the work breakdown structure and you complete the tasks, then you can pretty much achieve anything. One thing to be mindful of is to make sure that the tasks you're doing actually get you to your desired goal. This sounds obvious, but it's not uncommon for people to think that stretching will help them lose weight or posting one social media post a week will help them quit their job. So just make sure that when breaking down your goal that they are actually the steps necessary. This is where AI can be super useful as it can analyze your tasks and see if you're heading in the right direction. So I want you to take one of your milestones and break it down into at least 3 tasks. For my milestone to reach 84 kilograms, for example, I need to eat 3,200 calories per day, hit my macros for protein, carbs, and fat, hit the gym 4 times a week, and then sleep well. Third on the list is to limit your work in progress. In project management, there is a tool called a Kanban board. It can take different forms, but usually the format is tasks that need to be completed, tasks that are in progress, and tasks that have been completed. In the workforce, research from the American Psychological Association has shown that limiting work in progress can increase productivity by up to 40%. And this happens for 3 main reasons. The first is deep focus instead of scattered attention. Switching between tasks forces your brain to constantly readjust, draining mental energy. Limiting work in progress lets you focus deeply on one thing at a time, which actually helps getting more done faster. Second is less stress and mental overload. Having too many commitments can really make you feel overwhelmed, but when you limit yourself to 1 or maybe 2 tasks at a time, your next steps become a lot more straightforward and manageable. And lastly, visible progress builds momentum. As you start completing tasks toward a valued goal, you feel a sense of achievement. And the more tasks you complete, the more momentum you get, and that momentum becomes self-reinforcing, making you want to get even more things done. Okay, so now that we have our tasks for our milestone, we can put them into a Kanban board and choose one task that we will focus on until it's completed. Okay, so now we have chosen a goal, broken it down into milestones and tasks, and we are now using a Kanban board to control the work in progress. Now we need to actually set a time in our day that we intend to work on this task. A project manager knows that if time isn't dedicated to a task in a calendar, then that work will rarely ever get done. And as we learned with Kanban boards, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves with too many tasks at once, and the same is true when time blocking. When you set a time to complete a task, you should only focus on that one task. So because my in-progress task is to eat 3,200 calories, I'm going to set aside 1 hour dedicated to planning my meals for the day to hit this target. Next, you want to set deadlines, but we're going to take this a step further and throw our hats over the fence. Here's what the research actually shows. Deadlines alone help, but deadlines with consequences are far more powerful. Studies show that when people put money at stake, like $50 to a friend if they didn't hit their goal by the deadline, their success rates more than double. It's called loss aversion. We're 2 to 3 times more motivated to avoid losing something than to gain the equivalent. So when you're setting your goals and milestones, set a realistic due date, but also put something in place that you want to avoid. Research across multiple domains, from weight loss to mental health recovery to behavior change, consistently shows that social accountability improves follow through. One study in particular, tracking goal achievement, found that people who sent weekly progress updates to a friend succeeded 76% of the time, compared to just 43% for those working alone. Whether that's a weekly check-in with a partner, being part of a group working on similar goals, or even just publicly committing to your goals, having others aware of what you're working on creates positive pressure that helps you stick with it. If you want to find like-minded people and get the benefits of social accountability, consider joining my free Discord community, which is for people dedicated to reaching their goals. If you're a bit of an introvert, you can also talk to the AI within my app, which knows the context of all of your goals, milestones, and tasks. Although I would recommend using real people, as there isn't yet enough research that suggests AI can replace real humans for social accountability benefits. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing and let me know in the comments if you're confused by any of the steps or if you need any extra support. I'm happy to help out if I can.